What's going on, everyone? Tantalized Gaming here, and today I am bringing you a guide on Destruction Warlocks. I know a lot of hype has been about Affliction Warlocks going into Shadowlands, but today is all about Destruction. I'm going to be going over talents, rotations, legendaries, and overall things to look for as you, as a Destruction Lock player, are going into Season 1 of Shadowlands. So let's jump into it. Alright guys, so the first thing that I wanted to talk about for Destruction Warlocks is actually which legendaries to go after. The first legendary that I feel as a Warlock in the Destruction spec you're going to want to be going after is the Madness of Az-Akir. This dropped from the world boss Nurgash Muck form. And if you don't know about world bosses right now, don't worry, I didn't really understand a lot about them either. I found this here. I can post in the description of the video for world bosses. Essentially what it looks like is once the world boss rotation starts, which I believe will start in coordination with the normal difficulty of Castle Nathria, each week a different boss will spawn in one of 4 different locations. The one that you're going to be looking for actually spawns in Venthyr, or sorry, excuse me, in Revendreth. So you're going to be going over to Revendreth once it's his week to kill him. And if you look here at the raids tab, there's actually this here, the Shadowlands raids tab, which I didn't understand at first, but now I understand. It lists each of the different world bosses. So here is Nurgash, and there is the recipe for the legendary I was talking about. Essentially, this recipe will enable you to create a legendary that will make your Chaos Bolts stack damage off of each other, and also reduce the cast time of your second Chaos Bolt. So in arenas, you're pretty much going to be getting up to 4 shards. You're going to be using your burst rotation, and your Chaos Bolts that you're spamming in that rotation are going to be a lot more powerful with this legendary here. So as many of you probably know, Warlocks destruction wise took a huge nerf to Chaos Bolt from BFA. Our Focus Chaos talent got a 25% nerf, and then also they got rid of Grimmer of Supremacy, which essentially was a damage stacking talent that made it to where pretty much every shard you spent, I believe it was 8% extra damage to your Chaos Bolt while your Infernal was active on the ground. So those are both gone. That talent's gone, as well as the extra 25% that we used to have on this. So having this here kind of makes up for that Focus Chaos. Now granted, the way that it's worded, Chaos Bolt increases the damage of Chaos Bolt. It's only going to really start applying after your first Chaos Bolt has been sent. So a downfall to this is if you're getting interrupted or stunned in this chain, then you're losing the damage buff on your second Chaos Bolt. But despite that, I still feel like this is going to be an incredibly powerful legendary to go after for Destruction Warlocks in the arena setting. Now, the second one that I wanted to talk about is actually going to come from the raid, Castle Nathria. So Sludge Fist here drops a legendary recipe called Cinders of Az-Akir. Essentially, it's going to give your Conflagrate down here another charge. It's also going to make it to where your recharge rate on Conflagrate is a lot quicker. So what does Conflagrate do? Well, you can read down here. It reduces the cast time of your next Incinerate or Chaos Bolt by 30% for 10 seconds. Essentially creating a stack of backdraft shown here. So you can have up to 4 charges of that. Having this legendary is going to enable you to get a lot more charges of that, making you have more quicker Chaos Bolt casts, as well as some increased overall damage from just using your Incinerate and Conflagrate synergized together, which I feel is actually going to pair really well with this talent here, which I'll cover in my talent portion of this video. But as far as legendaries go, keep an eye on those 2 legendaries. I feel like having both of those is going to be pretty important for Destruction Warlocks as we head into Season 1. Alright guys, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is Covenants and Conduits. For a lot of you, switching Covenants each week is going to be something that's really hard to do. There's a cooldown on it, and you get penalized in the aspect of anima not transferring over to your other covenants. So as far as your covenant optimization, I feel like with destruction, you can't go wrong with Night Fae or with Venthyr. One thing I stated in my Venthyr video about Affliction Warlock was I didn't like going Venthyr because all of your abilities for the Venthyr shared a School of Magic with Affliction Warlock spells. However, Destruction Warlock, that's not the case. Destruction has so many different school spells of magic that you can use all of your spells as well as your abilities, as only Fear, I believe, is the one shared with Venthyr as far as destruction goes. You have fire and fell magic that are different. So you're going to be able to use all of your different abilities and these in combination with each other. As for myself, I'm going to be playing Night Fae, so in this video I'm going to be elaborating more on how I feel Night Fae helps Destruction Warlocks, so keep that bias in mind. But as far as Night Fae goes, they actually have some pretty cool things going for Destruction Warlock. Namely, this first ability here, pretty awesome. Redirected Anima increases your maximum health by 1% and your mastery by 25 for 30 seconds. Essentially, every time you deal damage, you're getting a stack of this. It continues to stack and stack and stack. Soul Rot itself gives you 8 stacks of this particular buff. So this here allows you to get a lot of extra mastery and increase your overall health. And some of you might be asking, well, I know haste and versatility is really important for Warlocks. What does mastery do for Destruction Warlocks? Well, if you're not familiar with it, Destruction Warlocks have this here, Chaotic Energy. Essentially, your mastery is going to increase your spell damage, and it's going to help reduce damage that you take. So if you're using this in addition to having a high versatility level from your gear, you're going to have a lot of self-sustain as a Destruction Warlock, a lot more than any other spec of Warlock, in my opinion. So this is something that looks possibly really awesome for Destruction Warlocks. As far as your first potency, Conduit, there's 2 that I've looked at that look really good for Destruction Warlocks. So the first one I have here, it doesn't look like a bad one to me. Essentially, your Infernals are going to be doing more damage. This potency, however, requires that you're speccing into Reign of Chaos, which again I'll talk about a little bit more in my talent portion of the video. But if you're getting any extra Infernals to drop during your Reign of Chaos window while your Infernal's on the ground, then essentially this Conduit shines a large amount. Even if you're only able to get 3 extra Infernals or have 3 total Infernals down on the ground, with this Conduit here, they're going to be dealing a lot of damage to whoever they're attacking. I feel like that's a really good potency to have here. As far as your second potency, Conduit, there's one that I've been looking at that also looks really good, which you obtain through Sanguine Depths. It's this Conduit here, Ashen Remains. So Chaos Bolt and Incinerate deal 5.2% increased damage to targets afflicted by Emulate. Essentially, you should have Emulate on everyone you're fighting, so your Chaos Bolts and Incinerates are going to be doing 5.2% increased damage always. Hopefully that's the case, right, that you're upkeeping your Emulate and you're always getting that damage buff. I feel like this is super strong, and the nice thing about this is that it's a constant damage buff. We're not going to get our second potency slot till at least Renown 25 if you're sticking with Naya, so you're not going to be able to put on a second one of these until at least Renown 25 if you're using her, or 28 if you're using Corian. So I did notice I failed to mention which of the 2 I felt were better. I don't feel like Dreamweaver is really a good option for PvP as far as Night Fae goes, if that's the Covenant you're playing for Destruction. I feel like you would either have to go with Naya or Corian here. Naya's good because you're getting that mastery buff bonus, which I already said is going to help you deal more damage and stay alive more. You're also going to get access to this ability here, which essentially is just a dot damage through your abilities for a form of nature damage. I feel like that's pretty much the one you're going to have to go with Naya, because that's the only route that offers a second potency conduit, allowing you to do both damage through something like this and your Ashen Remains. If you're going through Corian though, then you're going to get a better damage at the start of your fights with an increased movement speed, as well as having enemies in front of you take a little bit more damage from you and inflict a little bit less damage towards you. So as far as potencies go, I feel like those two are the best. Again, remember, really optimize that Ashen Remains. If you can get it, then go ahead and go grab it from Sanguine Depths. Luckily for you guys, Destruction Warlocks, it's on the second boss. So I know for myself, I was trying to get Rolling Agony as an Affliction lock, which dropped from the other side, and I had to farm that heroic dungeon like 14 times to get it to drop. And it was on the last boss. So you might have to run this dungeon a few times. Try to get it on Mythic if you can. It's an even higher percentage of damage. If not, then Heroic, you're going to get your 4.8% increased damage from that. So that's kind of what I'm looking at as far as your conduits go for damage. If you're looking more at like your finesse conduits, I feel like they're pretty similar to Affliction Warlock. Your Shaded Tower is going to be an awesome conduit to have for Destruction Warlocks, namely because you're going to be able to fear Chaos Bolt people. If you're trying to secure a kill on a healer, even if he's taking damage from someone already, with this finesse conduit here, you're going to be able to fear him, fear the healer in this example, and Chaos Bolt him down to death without having your teammates damage break the fear. So that's pretty awesome. As far as your endurance conduits go here, you're going to get pretty much an option of one if you're using Corian, which I would highly suggest either Resolute Barrier or the Accured Vitality. Resolute Barrier is going to reduce the overall cooldown of your Unending Resolve, allowing you to be able to use this a lot more, which is awesome for both defensive and offensive reasons. Obviously, you get immunity to interrupt, silence, and pushbacks while in Unending Resolve. So if you get your cooldowns ready to go, then you're going to be able to use Unending Resolve more to perhaps get your damage rotation off. Or if you're taking more damage, then you're going to be able to use it more often to help you stay alive. So Accured Vitality, though, however, I don't feel like is a bad conduit for Night Fae Destruction Warlocks, namely because your drain life heals for 44% of the amount drained over 8.9 seconds. You're only going to want to really get the most value out of this when you're using your Soul Rot. So you'll use Soul Rot, mass drain life with this conduit on, and essentially everyone you're draining life in an arena, you're going to be healing a lot of health back to you by using that combination. Disadvantage to this, however, is all they have to do is stun you in a drain life or kick the drain life, and you're not going to get that healing back. So for that reason, I would probably more prioritize Resolute Barrier. That's kind of what I'm feeling is going to be the best route for Destruction Warlock as far as your conduits go. Keeping in mind again that you're going to prioritize Ashen Remains as your first potency later on down the road. I don't feel like Infernal Brand is going to be a bad one, but you're going to be RNGing the damage from that. Alright guys, so let's jump into gearing and stats for Destruction Warlocks. So I feel like Destruction Warlocks right now are going to want to be prioritizing haste and versatility, just like pretty much any caster in the game right now. So what that means is make sure that when you're buying your PvP gear, you're looking for any kind of item that's gonna give you those specific stats. Also keeping in mind not to buy the item that you're going to want to be getting for your legendary piece. So like for this legendary I talked about, it would be your head or your hands. I would probably turn this into a headpiece, and so not buying like a helmet with haste and verse or wasting 875 conquest on that, as you'll already have your helmet from your legendary. So optimize that stat priority, versatility being slightly above haste, as now we're all getting the 40% buff from having 2 PvP trinkets, That's going to enable you to deal a lot more damage as well as stay alive as a Destruction Warlock. So the trinkets that I would be looking for as a Destruction Warlock is absolutely this one here. Gladiator's Medallion is a must-have. That's going to help you get out of chain stun kills, use rogue, smoke bombs, things like that. Having that super important. And unlike Affliction Warlock, which I kind of suggested this Sinful Gladiator's Insignia of Alacrity, I feel like the Badge of Ferocity is actually the go-to for Destruction Warlocks. Mainly because you're able to use this right before you're doing your Chaos Bolt windows, and that's going to cause your Chaos Bolts to hit a lot harder. The new and improved version of the trinket also only has a 1-minute cooldown, so essentially every time that you're getting 4 shards up, as long as you have your cooldown off this, you're going to pop that and use both your Chaos Bolts back to back with the 25% increased damage from that legendary. I feel like we're going to see a lot of damage coming out of Destruction Warlocks with this particular setup here. So again, haste and burst is your priorities with a combination of trinkets from the Gladiator's Medallion and your Sinful Badge of Ferocity. So that's kind of what I feel like would be the best for 3s. Again, if you're playing 2s and you don't have a healer, this Gladiator's emblem here is always a good choice. That's going to enable you to get a lot more health in 2s to survive. However, keep in mind that Destruction Warlocks have a lot of self-sustain, particularly in 2s with your double Mortal Coil, your health cookie, and if you're playing Night Fade, you're going to have a heal coming off of your soul shape. So that's kind of your gear stat priority and trinket choices that I feel like are going to help you optimize yourself as a Destruction Warlock as we head into Season 1. Alright guys, so the last thing I wanted to cover for Destruction Warlock is just some tips and tricks and things I think you can do to optimize yourself as a Destruction Warlock. And then I'll jump into your talents and your rotation. The first thing is just making sure that you have some good macros set up for Destruction Warlock. A couple that I use that have helped me personally in an arena setting or a PvP setting is just having like a form of burst rotation. Essentially, you're going to combine Blood Fury if you're an Orc, your Trinket, and your Dark Soul Instability into one button. So using it will cause all of your abilities to go off at once. This is a super powerful and important macro to use right after using your Summon Infernal. Another macro that I feel is a good one to have is your Summon Infernal at cursor here. Essentially, instead of having to use Infernal and then click where you want it to land, you can just have your cursor ready wherever you want the Infernal to fall, and then you're going to use your spell and it will just fall. Essentially, that's going to save you time in having to use Infernal and then click where you want it to land. It's just something super minute that you can do to help get your Infernal down on the ground a little bit quicker. Understand though that it will spawn wherever your cursor's at the time that you use it. So as far as like your damaging macros, that's all that I have to kind of help you in that aspect. Some other macros I would suggest as a Destruction Warlock are all based on your arena targeting here. So essentially, you're going to set up your macros for your pet command for arena targets 1, 2, and 3, your fears arena targets 1, 2, and 3, and then having Havoc on a arena targeting system is super awesome, especially for Mortal Coil, and also just getting an emulate out or other things like that. So essentially, you'll use Havoc on, arena 1. If you're already targeting arena 2, then you can use your Mortal Coil and it's gonna coil both of them. It just helps in getting your double Mortal Coils off and helping to also deal a little bit extra damage in the arena as far as the Havoc ability goes for Warlocks. Alright guys, jumping into talents for Destruction Warlocks. I feel like Destro Locks actually have a lot of potential with all of their different talents, as far as comparing them to Affliction Warlocks. One thing that I would take on your talent 15 row is Flashover. Essentially, you're going to get 4 charges of your backdraft instead of just 3, which, again, just going back, looking at it, is what's going to cause your Incinerate and Chaos Bolts to be cast a lot quicker And in an arena, speed is everything. The quicker you can get off chaos bolts and damage, the better and more likely of a chance you have to win the arena. So I feel like flashover is a moneymaker in a arena setting. This one here, I really just feel is just a 15% increase to your haste. So you're getting more haste on random procs. Again, faster chaos bolt casts and faster fear casts can really help you to secure kills and do more overall damage in an arena. So moving on to 30 here, I typically run demon skin, especially in a 3 setting. I feel like demon skin's the go-to. In a 2 setting, dark pack can be really strong, especially if you're combining it with the health boosting trinket. You're able to use this and then sacrifice your health, and you can get a shield that's pretty powerful. I'm sure the conquest version of this trinket that gives you like 10,000 health combined with this could give you like a shield for probably like 20k. That's pretty significant. So your 35 row, Cataclysm's the go-to here. Extra damage as well as a chance to emulate more than one target, saving you just some time in having to keep your emulate up. This is super strong. Your 40 talent is either always going to be Howl of Terror or Mortal Coil. For Destruction Warlocks, I feel like it's almost always got to be Mortal Coil, particularly because you have Havoc allowing you to cast 2 of these. So you're getting a 40% heal as well as keeping 2 targets on a 3-second instant fear. That's too good to give up. However, if you're fighting 2 melee classes and they're just going to be sitting on you the entire arena, I feel like Howl of Terror could still be good. I believe this drops down to 5-second disorient in a PvP setting, so you're getting an extra 2 seconds over Mortal Coil. Yeah, you're not getting a heal, but it's something you don't have to set up with a Havoc. You're able to just use it, and anyone around you is going to get feared for 5 seconds in an arena. So that's kind of the 40 talent row there. Moving on to 45. Unlike Affliction Warlock, I feel like Grimoire of Sacrifice is almost never worth it for Destro. I feel like you're going to want to run through these 2 different talents as a Destruction Warlock. Either Reign of Chaos or Roaring Blaze. So Reign of Chaos is a super potentially strong talent for Destruction Warlocks in the aspect that if you happen to get 1 extra Infernal to drop during your first couple shard opener, then it's going to snowball effect, and you're going to get a lot more shards coming down in and a lot more Infernals dropping, which if you're using that conduit I talked about that increases your Infernals melee damage, this is going to do a lot of damage in an arena or a battleground setting. But the disadvantage to this is that it's all based on that 15% chance. If you don't get any extra Infernals dropping, then that conduit loses its value as well as your damage takes a huge dive. So if you're versing a team in an arena that's going to be stunning or interrupting you a lot, not enabling you to spend shards as often while your Infernal's down, such as a Rogue or a Pharaoh Druid or even a Death Knight, I probably wouldn't run Reign of Chaos just for the fact that you're going to most likely not get the most optimization out of this with all the different interrupts and stuns and things like that. I would probably choose Roaring Blaze in that instance, which Roaring Blaze is also a super powerful talent choice here. This is going to give you more sustained damage over the course of an arena, essentially making your conflagrate damage do more. Pairing this, like I said earlier, with that legendary that gives you an extra charge is going to help you deal a lot more sustained damage in a PvP setting, and also it's something that you don't have to worry about the chance of dealing extra damage with. You just spec into this, have your legendary, and your damage is going to be consistent and it's going to be reliable damage. So those are kind of my 2 choices on the 45 row. So again, if you're versing something that's not going to be interrupting you as much or sitting you as much, then Reign of Chaos is probably the way to go. with the legendary that increases your Chaos Bolt damage from one after another. If you are and you're versing a comp that's going to be interrupting you a lot and shutting you down, then I would probably go Roaring Blaze paired with a legendary that lets you have an extra charge and increases your overall damage of your Conflagrate altogether. So I feel like on the 50 row, Dark Soul instability is the go-to here. You're going to want to be using this in addition to your Blood Fury as Orc and to your Badge of Ferocity from the PvP vendor. Essentially, you're going to build up some shards, drop your Infernal, pop all your cooldowns, this included, and your Chaos Bolts are going to be doing a lot more damage. So Channel Demon Fire could also be alright if you're using the legendary that gives you the extra Conflagrate and you're respecting the Roaring Blaze. Channel Demon Fire could actually be pretty decent with having the extra fire damage coming from this and the extra charge from the legendary. I'm sure Channel Demon Fire will do a pretty good amount of damage, and it's not purgeable like this is. So if you're versing 2 shamans, that's something to keep in mind, or 2 other classes that can purge really easy. This is something that you could get taken away from you, whereas Channel Demon Fire in addition to Roaring Blaze is something that is going to be a reliable form of damage increase. So moving on to the PvP talents, Focus Chaos is a must-have for Destruction Warlocks. I feel like you're always going to want to be using this in addition to either Demon Armor or your Nether Ward. As a third talent, I feel like PvP wise, Cremation is the go-to. Essentially you're going to be getting more increased damage from your Conflagrates if you are using Roaring Blaze and the legendary that increases your Conflagrate charges by 1. This PvP talent here really shines. So that's kind of my talent suggestions as far as Destruction Warlocks go. I feel like you're gonna see a lot of damage coming out of them in the arenas, but let's jump into rotation. Alright guys, so jumping into your damage rotation as a Destruction Warlock, essentially you're going to want to make Emulate a priority as you start your damage rotation. You're going to want to make sure that it's on every target that you're fighting, whether that's in an arena or if you're in a battleground, try to have it on at least 4 people. That's really going to optimize how many shards you're generating as a Destruction Warlock. Once you have Emulate on each of your targets, then you're going to want to put a Havoc out on at least one of them and target a different person and use your Conflagrate ability. This is going to begin to generate charges of Backdraft to make your Chaos Bolt cast a lot faster. Also, it's going to start generating a large amount of shards for yourself. Once you're capped on shards, that's when you're going to use your Summon Infernal ability and then use your macro to use Dark Soul, Blood Fury, and your Trinket to optimize how much damage your Chaos Bolts are going to be doing in your Chaos Bolt window while Infernal's on the ground. Keep in mind that on this particular damage rotation run, I'm going to be using Reign of Chaos. So the shard generation and extra damage that comes from my Reign of Chaos Infernals is going to be completely based on how lucky I get on that 15% chance that another one will drop. However, I am also running the Infernal brand potency here, so if I do get some Infernals, a lot of them to drop, I'm interested to see how much damage that's going to do. So it should look something kind of like this. So essentially you're going to put your Emulate down. We'll just use a Cataclysm there to get those 2 rolling. You'll use a Havoc on one of them, Conflagrate, full shards, drop your Infernal, use all of your cooldowns, and then start casting Chaos Bolt. Now you're seeing 2 there because we're not in an arena, but that won't happen. Spam your Incinerates to get some more shards. I mean, you can see, guys, I haven't gotten one extra one to drop, so super unlucky there. There's one. We're going to reapply our Emulates and kind of just keep it going. So the Infernal went away there. We'll go ahead and stop damage, let those tick down. That's kind of what your damage rotation will look like. Again, remembering to prioritize emulate. I probably didn't put those up as soon as I should have during that rotation, but this is the breakdown of damage here. So that's actually surprising me. So to give you an idea, the emulation infernal, that emulation damage is the damage that my infernal's emulation aura caused to that dummy. And that was only with 2 that ended up spawning down. So if I had had 3 or 4, I feel like that number would have been a lot higher. That tells me that this potency here is actually a pretty strong potency, if that's what's causing the majority of my damage, even over Chaos Bolts. So that's kind of the damage rotation for Destruction Warlocks. Remember, keep your emulation up on everyone. Havoc windows to generate shards is pretty good by, just using Havoc on someone else, targeting someone else, and using Conflagrate. That's going to let you generate a lot more shards as well as deal damage to 2 people. I'll usually even Mortal Coil during that window just to get 2 people off me before I start doing my damage rotation. And then once you're at full shards, you're going to use your Infernal and all your other cooldowns and kind of just start spamming Chaos Bolts from that point on. Alright guys, that's really all I got for Destruction Warlocks as we head into Shadowlands. I'm going to be bringing out another video about comparing them with Affliction Warlocks. Guys, I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed with Destro right now. I know a lot of people were super sad to see the nerfs coming into Shadowlands on Chaos Bolt, but I feel like Blizzard's done a good job at implementing some other mechanics to Destro locks that make them just as strong, if not stronger, than they were in BFA. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully this Destruction Warlock guide is giving you some insight as to things to look for to get as a Destro lock. I feel like there's still a really good spec for Warlock, especially just seeing now how that potency conduit made that aura do that much damage is insane. So I feel like those of you that have been a die-hard Destruction Warlock, from the start of BC up until now, don't worry guys, I know Affliction's been getting a lot of hype, but Destro is still looking really awesome. In my next video, I'm actually going to be comparing the two to kind of help elaborate which I feel is going to be good in what scenarios. I think it's a little early to tell which is better than the other, but look for that video and hopefully that kind of gives you a better explanation. So thanks for watching guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.